All right, so good evening and welcome to C Sharp tutorial class. And today we'll be looking into functions, array lists, collections. I know in our last class we talked a little bit about arrays because we needed it to really practicalize loops and see how loops work. So today we just touch on it. Then we talk about lists and different collections we have in C Sharp and there are reasons for using them. Okay. So we'll look into functions, arrays, lists, and collections, then go into practical examples and take any question and answers. So functions is our first topic. So what are functions? Functions are reusable block of code that performs a certain task. So instead of repeating code many times, we can actually place it inside a method and call it whenever needed, right? So I'm going to use my whiteboard to really illustrate how function works so that when we go into code, you would really appreciate what it does. So let's say, for example, I was given a problem to write a program that prints the name of a person 10 times, right? Write a program that prints the name of a person 10 times. So how that will be written manually is more like using your console.write line, right? To print this how many times? 10 times. So let me just use 5 times for 5 times. So I have written a program to print the name of this user 5 times. So by venture in future, if I write that same program, printing the name of that person 5 times, what happens is that I'll end up rewriting that same um line of code, right? How many times? 5 times. 5 times. Then if you need to print the name of that person again in a section of your code, you end up rewriting this stuff again 5 times, which is what we have here. Let me do this so that I don't end up. Okay, I think. All right. Okay. I'll end up doing this again 5 times. So you notice that if you end up doing all this, you notice your code becomes very messy because you're actually using this logic in some part of your code, right? You're actually using this logic in some part of your code. You're using it here, you're using it here, you're using it here, you're using it here, and you're using it here. That makes your code look dirty and all. So what function does is that because there is a logic you have implemented that will be used in another place, why not include that logic in a function so that wherever is needed, you don't need to repeat that lines of code. You just need to call the name of the function and it's going to print out the same output. Are we following? Hello? Are we good? Can someone hear me?
Yes, 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 yes. I'm good.
Okay, I thought I was talking to myself. So with functions, it reduces all this repetition of code, right? It reduces all this into one single line. And by implementing functions, what happens now is that with functions, all I just need to do is I need the name of my function. So if the name of my function is this, if this is the name of my function, and inside my function, I have a body. Let me use a real name. Let's say this is the name of my function. A is the name of my function, right? And inside A, inside A, we have this part, we have this code inside function A. What happens is that if I need this implementation in another section of my code or in another part of my code or any file, I do not need to go about rewriting these same lines as I'm doing here. All I just need to do is call A. I just need to do what? Call A here. By calling A, what happens is that it's going to indirectly print out the output of A. If I need A in this other side, I just need to call function A here, meaning by calling that, it would print this output here. So with using functions, it reduces the issue of duplicating or repeating your lines of code in so many places by just creating a function that holds that logic and calling that function name wherever you want it to use, reusing it as the name implies. Are we following? So that's just the overview of what function does, right? Any question? Hello? Thumbs up if we are following. Hello? Okay. Bakare, are you following? Bernard,
Yes, sir.
Shikonya, Kelvin. All right, great. So that's it with functions. So why use functions? Like I said, it avoids repeating the same code. And if you have a big problem, you can break it down into smaller parts. So take, for instance, I want to build an application like Facebook, right? I want to build an application like Facebook. How will I build that now? You know, the usefulness of function is that it breaks a bigger problem into smaller fractures, all right, from smaller segments. So while building an application like Facebook, you would need different things, right? You need to implement authentication where a user would log in, register his account. You also need to implement where a user is sending a friend request to another user. You also need to implement a user is sending a message to another user, right? So all these can be broken down into a function. So when you break down them into a function, you can have a function called authentication that will handle when user register the account. You can also have another function called um, send request, whereby after they have registered the account, the user can now call that function. And by calling that function, they want to send a request to another user. So we can have different functions that is breaking down a bigger problem into smaller problems, so smaller segment that you can easily solve and tackle. Okay, so that's one of the advantage of why would use function. Then it's easier to read and maintain. Without function, you end up seeing like a file that has over 300, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 lines of code. That with functions, we can just take a line of code that maybe one of the like 50 lines of code in that file. We can just convert them into a function and store that logic into another file. So by doing that, you are reducing the number of lines in the code. All right. That's why it's easier to read and maintain. You will not really understand this now, except maybe when you are working on a real project, right? You tend to see all this, okay? Then it can be tested individually and can be used anywhere in the program. This tested individually, you would understand this in future when we talk about unit testing, right? Testing a particular feature that was implemented. So you tend to appreciate this can be tested individually, all right? Any question? Thumbs up if you are following. All right, yeah, thanks. So the anatomy of a function is more like the syntax. How is it written? Like how is a function written, right? So how it's written is we need the access modifier, which could be the public, private. We also need the return type that function is returning. Then we need the name of the function, which is always in Pascal case in C sharp. Yeah. I know most some programming language, they are when creating a function, they use lowercase for that, but in C sharp, it's always in Pascal case. Then after the method name, we need the parameters that is always enclosed in the parentheses, the open and close bracket. And finally, um, the body, then the return statement. If that function is returning something or it's not returning anything, which is a void, okay? We would go into practice and everything will become clearer, right? Right, let's go to my Visual Studio. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Yeah, right. All right, can we see my Visual Studio? Uh, okay. Can you see my Visual Studio?
No, no, no. Okay, yes, now,
No.
yes,
How about now?
yes, I
Yes.
can now.
It's a bit smaller. Let me increase it. Okay. All right. So, this is my Visual Studio, right? Remember when I said, was it in our second class or third class, I talked about every programming language has an entry point, right? Who remembered? Every programming language has an entry point. And for C sharp, the entry point is always main. Yeah, most of programming language, their entry point is main. Now, you would notice that this is actually the latest version of C sharp. Previously, before now, when you create a console application, it comes with this. I've written something like that for us to understand. It comes with this format. I don't know if you have seen this format. Can you give a thumbs up if you have seen this format before? Okay. All right. So Chisom have seen that format before. So it
But we
comes
can
with
still get it on this new
yeah, yeah, you can
uh,
if you create it, you can set it that
creating a
way. If you
new,
want it,
yes.
yeah, 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 you can set it that way if you want it to be like this. But there is a reason why I prefer something as clean as this because I don't want to see all this. This is actually happening behind the scene. So what C Sharp has done, what Visual Studio does now is it has hidden that boiler template. It's actually there, but we can't see it. Do you get? Which is making our code very easier and cleaner because I would not want to bother myself seeing all this stuff, right? Great. So program is a class, right? When you create your console application, the where you run your code is actually the program.cs, which is the name of this file, program.cs, which is your class. Inside this program.cs, I want to start writing my C sharp syntax. I want to start writing my C sharp line of code. But for me to write that, I need to calling the main method, because the main method is the entry point to my lines of code, to my program, right? Without this main method, my code is not going to run, right? It needs an entry point, and this is how it is being written. The static void, then the main method, which is not taking anything. Then inside here, this is where we are always writing our console dot write line. This is where we are always writing our console dot write line, right? But what what Visual Studio did was to remove all these boiler templates, and they hid it, right? So that if I want to write my console, I don't need to start creating something like this: class, program, then I put my curly brace, then I call in the main method, then I start writing. I don't want to go through that step. I just want to directly start writing my code. That's why I preferred this template, right? Hope we are following. So just know that every programming language has an entry point, which is the main. Okay? All right. Now, we are going to look at the basic method syntax, right? The basic method syntax. Basic method syntax. How the method is written. What are those ingredients that makes up a complete function statement? How is it written? Okay. So first off, I need the return type. Let me write it this way. Things to make up a function statement syntax. Things to make up a function statement syntax. So first up is the return type, right? Secondly is the what? I need the method name. Then I also need the parameters. Yeah. Then I need the body of the functions, the body of the function, and finally will be the return keyword, the body of the function, the code that is inside the function, right? Then finally would be the return or void. So this is like your rule, like more like what you would need as a guidance, right? What is going to guide you in writing your own function syntax in C#. You need all this. Okay, without this, your code will not run. So you need these components, right, to help you write a complete function syntax. Okay? If you are following, a thumbs up, please. I want everybody to be carried along because this is like the foundation, right? If you struggle with this, it's going to affect you in future. Yeah. Especially when we go into OOP classes and it's going to affect you. So you really need to understand this very well. Okay. So first off now is I want to create a function that will print Chisom Amadi 10 times. I want to create a function that will print Chisom Amadi 10 times. You know the illustration I gave when I used the whiteboard. Without the function, you'd end up doing something like this. Without the function, you end up doing something like this. Console dot write line. Uh, Chisom, Amadi. You end up doing something like this. Let's say 10 times. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you end up doing something like this 10 times. Then paraventure, you want to use this logic somewhere down. Maybe you want to use it, there's a part, you want to use it somewhere here. You end up repeating this, right? You end up repeating this. And let's say you want to use it as you are writing your code, you still want to use that logic somewhere in your file. You end up repeating this, which doesn't make sense, right? Hope we are following. Hello? Thumbs up. All right, great. But with function now, we will need to write a function that will enclose all this. We just need to take that logic and put it inside the function body so that whenever I want to make use of that logic, I don't need to start repeating or pasting this whole line. I just need to call that function name and it's going to do the magic for me. Okay? All right. So let's do this now. If I should print this now, let's see what happens. Let me just put a demarcation so that we all see the difference. Console.write line. Okay. Mm, All right. Great. So if I run this now, what should happen? Console, right line. If I run this, it still gives me the same output, right? It still gives me the same output, Chisom Amadi, but I'm writing so many lines of code. Okay, you're not seeing my um output console. Come in just a moment. All right. Okay. All right. So can you see my console? Can you see my console?
Yes, sir.
All right. So that line of code has given me this output, which is what we see here. Chisom, then the equal the demarcation, which is chisom 3 times. That's 10, 10, 10, 20 times, a bit 30 times, right? But with function now, right? With function, this is how it works with function. First off, I need the return type, right? I'll explain the return type later. We have different return types. A method that returns a value, while we have methods that do not need to return a value, right? So in our own case, the method we want to write is the one that does not return. There are different kind of functions, right? Let me write this here so that to avoid confusions. Types of functions. We have different kinds of functions. We have which is what we want to do now. We have the void function. The void function. We have the um, return function, right? Return function. We have the method that returns something, right? Then we have parameterless function. Parameterless functions, right? We have the parameterless functions. We have the parameter function, the functions with parameters, with parameters. Like there are many. It depends on how you want to really structure it, right? So as we do more practice and exercise, we will come across the different kinds of We also have optional functions and all. So let's just start with the void function. So void function, as the name implies, it's nothing, right? It doesn't return. It's the opposite of return function. So a void function does not return anything. In C sharp, there is a keyword called return. In C sharp, there is a keyword called return. This is what I mean. There is a keyword. This is a keyword, return, in C sharp. So what return does is that it it's just like you sending your junior sister to go and buy sugar. By you sending your junior sister to go and buy sugar, you are expecting a feedback, right? You are expecting your sister to come back with that sugar, to come back with something. That is more like a return, whereby you create a variable to hold a method that will return a value. When that method returns that value will be stored in that variable, right? Great. So any function that has a return keyword is known as a return function. A function that does not have the keyword return means that function is a void function. If you are confused, let me see your hands or a thumbs up if you are confused. I've spoken too much. Or if you are clear, thumbs up. If you understand what I just said, a thumbs up. Okay, Bakari, you raised your hand.
Yeah, so it's just an observation. I noticed that um there are times where you want to say function, you say methods. Are they the same thing?
Okay. Yes. Methods and functions, they are the same thing, but when we go into classes, we'll be talking about methods, right? They're actually the same thing, but they are different in the sense that methods are for classes. I don't want to talk about classes now until when I talk more of OOP, object-oriented programming, like classes, then I'll talk about methods. But just know that methods and functions, they are the same thing, but in different contexts. Okay? Are we good? All right. Thanks. So let's proceed. So now we're going to create a function that returns nothing, which is a void function. And that function will be responsible for printing Chisom Amadi 10 times. So first off is the return type. And because this function does not return anything, for a function to not return anything, we give that function a void keyword. So this void keyword is saying, since this function is not returning anything, use the void keyword for that function. Okay? So we need the void. Then we also need the name of the function, right? We need the void. We also need the name of the function. And what is the name of the function? The name of the function could be print Amadi. That could be the name of the function. One thing about function name is that it should tell what that function is doing, right? A bad way of naming function could be maybe you are asked to write a function that adds to number. Write a function that adds to number, and you then give your function name. You know that that function is supposed to add to number, you then give your function name, subtract. It doesn't make sense, right? So the function name you use should tell or should describe, it's more like a verb. It should tell what that function is actually trying to solve. Okay? But in our own case, what we are trying to do is to print Amadi 10 times. So it is cool to give our function name print Amadi. All right? After the method name is what our open and close parentheses, open and close brackets. Now, parameters are like variables that are enclosed in your open and close brackets. They are enclosed in your open and close brackets. But in our own case, I will not be making use of parameters. That is why I said one of the type of a function is that we have a parameterless function, meaning we can have functions that do not have parameters within the parentheses, right? So because of the problem we are trying to solve, we do not need parameters in a function. After this, we'll do another exercise that would need parameters. Then you really appreciate um, the whole flow, right? Great. So the void, the name of the method, the parameter, but in our own case, we don't need parameter. Then the body of the function, which is enclosed in a coily brace, which is enclosed in a coily brace, which is this. So this is the body of this function. This is the body of this function. And inside the body will contain the code. It could be 20, it could be 30 lines of code, it could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 200, it could be 300 lines of code. But when your function, there's what we call, okay, when we go into OOP, we talk more on solid principle or best practices, right? When you notice your function is having so many things inside, it's always good to break it into another function, right? When your function is doing many things, like you create a function that inside the function is doing what it is adding, it is subtracting, it is dividing, it is doing so many things. It doesn't make sense. So when you encounter something like that, you should break your function further, meaning the part that is adding, why not create a function that handles the addition? Why not create a function that handles subtraction so that when you create the overall function called calculate, if there's a logic that needs addition, you don't need to write all the lines of code for that addition. You just need to call the addition function into your calculate method and it will do the rest for you. Okay. All right. So this is the body of the function. I'll repeat it again. The return type, and since our function is not returning anything, we use the void keyword. The name of the function, right? The parameters, but in our own case, what we are trying to solve does not need parameter. That is why there's no parameter here. Then the body of the function, which is what we have here, which is always enclosed in a coily brace, then followed by the line of code. So the line of code could be this, could be all of this. So I can just copy this and paste here. I can just copy this and paste here, as simple as that. Then finally is the return or void. Because this function is not returning anything, I don't need to use the return in this keyword. So I just end up closing this and that's it with a void function, right? No need to use return to end it because this function is not returning anything. It is void. It's just printing this to the console. So this is how we write a void function. This is how we write a void function. Now, it doesn't end there. We have defined, what we have done is that we have actually defined the function called print Amadi. It doesn't end there. There's what we call calling the function. You don't only define it, you need to call that function. If you don't call the function, nothing will happen, right? If you don't call the function, nothing will happen. Okay. So now that I have defined the function based on the illustration I gave using the whiteboard, wherever I see this line of code, right? Wherever I see this line of code written here, I just need to replace that line of code with this function. I want to call that function name there. So if I scroll down, I see that same line of code. I just need to delete this and replace it with the function name, right? Replace this with the function name. As simple as that. So I need to replace it with the function name. I scroll down, I see that line of code. I delete this, I replace it with the function name, okay? And it does the magic for me. Hope everyone is following. Thumbs up if you are following. Okay, Bakare, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, mistake.
Okay. All right. But I hope we are following. All right, that's fine.
Yes.
All right, thanks. So that's it. So I have called the function in that part that I need this whole line of code to execute. So if I end up running my line of code, I'll end up having the same output with a lesser line of code. Unlike before when I was having more than 50, I mean 51 line of code. It has been reduced to just 50 line of code. So if I run this now, if I run this, I still end up having the same output, right? Are we good? Okay. Just a moment. Let me charge my system. It just took the light. 1 minute, please. All right. So, can I be heard? Can someone hear me? All right, thanks. So that's it with creating a void function. That's it with creating a void function. So let's look into functions that we'll still look into void function, but this time around it will be a function that has parameters, right? It's going to be a function that has parameters. All right. So the next program I want to write is I want to write a function. The next program is to write a function that um, greets a user. Write a function that greets a user. So all I just need to do is pass in the name of the user as the parameter, and it's going to greet good morning, then the name of the user. That's what we want to do, right? Great. So first off, let me delete all this. All right. Great. So as usual, the void, then the name of the function, which could be greet user, right? Now, this function wants to greet a user, right? It just needs to greet a user, like more like I want it to do something like this. I want it to do something like this. So if user is Amadi, then greet good morning, good morning, um, Amadi, right? If user is Chinedu, then it will be good morning, Chinedu. That's what we want to do. Now, looking at these two, this is what we want to solve. If user is Amadi, greet good morning, Amadi. If user is Chinedu, greet good morning, Chinedu. Now, what I want to demonstrate or what I want to teach you guys on doing it, how to determine or know the number of parameters you would need in a function based on the problem or based on the problem you're trying to solve. How to know the number of parameters you will need. Okay. If you look at the first instance, right? If user is Amadi, then let your function print good morning Amadi. If the user is Chinedu, then the function should print good morning Chinedu. Now, in the left hand side, there is one thing that is appearing twice, which is what? User and user. Thumbs up if you agree to that. Okay, so user and user, they're appearing two times, but they have the same um, name called user and user. Because they have the same um, name or title, user and user, that would tell that, oh, I just need one parameter to solve this problem, right? I need just one parameter to solve this problem. Don't worry. After this one, we'll do another practice exercise that would require two parameters, that is going to require three parameters. Okay. So now we are just looking at the single parameter, right? So if user is this, good morning, Amadi. If user is this, so user is just one user. So because we have just one user, we just need one parameter. Okay, which is this. So I can give my um parameter a name. Every parameter has a name, which is like a variable. So I just give it user. So this is the name of my parameter name. Now it is flagging an error because when adding the parameter, it's just like your variable that needs what? Who can answer that? What does your variable need? When creating a variable, what does it need?
Initialization.
Not really. It needs something before
To declare
the
Data type.
eh?
the data type or the declare.
Exactly, the data type. It needs the data type. All right. So your variable needs a data type. The same applies to your parameter. Your parameter name needs a data type. This is actually the name of my parameter, but I need the data type for this parameter. So looking at this, what kind of data type do I give this parameter? Is it an int? Is it a string? Is it a boolean? So which
It's a string.
is a string, right? Because we are dealing with the name of somebody, not a
Yeah.
number, right? Great.
Yeah.
So because it's a string, I would give it a string, as simple as that. So this is how to write a parameter or add a parameter to a function. Then I bring in my body and the code that would do the printing of good morning. Right line. Um, so it's going to be good morning, user. We're looking at this now. Is there anything wrong with what I just did? Is there anything wrong with what I just did? Will this give me the actual good morning user? Will it give me the actual user? Anyways, let's just leave it there for now. So I have defined the function, right? I have defined the function. It doesn't end there. I need to call that function and pass the value, the actual value to that function. I need to call that function. And how do I call it? I don't need to come and rewrite void greet, or I just need to call the function name, which is what? Greet user, open bracket. If I leave this blank, it's going to flag an error saying this function actually has a parameter. So when calling the function, you need to pass in a value that will represent the parameter that will be used to execute the line of code and all, right? You need to pass in the value, the actual value when using this function, because this function now, when it was defined, it is using a parameter, one parameter. So when calling that function, you must pass in a value that represents the actual variable name, which is a user of a string. Meaning, you shouldn't do something like this because, okay, fine, it needs a value. You end up doing like this. No, this is very wrong. You should pass in the value of that parameter. So it's just like you created a variable called string user equal to what? Ebuka. String user equals to Ebuka. This variable here is like your parameter. The value here is what you would pass as argument when calling the function, is what you pass as argument when calling the function, right? That's why there are two namings, right? There are two namings. We have the parameters, we have the parameter, and we have the argument. There are two different things. The parameter is used when you are defining the function, right? When you are defining the function. But when you want to pass in the actual value, which could be string user ebuka, which could be this value, that is regarded as the argument, right? That's regarded as the argument, which is the actual value for that function. Is it clear? Thumbs up. If it's not clear, let me know and I'll come again. Is everyone following?
Please
Thumbs
come
up.
again.
Sorry?
Please come again.
All right. Okay, I'll come again. So we have two kinds of namings, right? When talking about function, we have parameters, then we also have argument. We have parameters, we have argument. Okay, we have parameters and we have argument. Parameters are used when you are defining a function, right? When you are defining a function, which is written like this. This is a parameter which looks like when you are declaring a variable. Are you following? So if I have, let's say I have another function. Let me create another function first that uses, this time around, it's going to use number. Okay. Maybe um void. So this one is print age. Print age. Print age. So what would be passed here would be int age, right? Console dot write line. Your age is going to print the age. Right, great. So this int age here is just like you declaring a variable like this. Int age equal to, then you give it maybe 25 years old. Right? Samuel, do you understand this part?
Yes, yes,
Great. So this is your parameter. This is actually your parameter. All these are your parameter. Just like when you are declaring a variable, string this, in this, that is like your parameter when it comes to functions. But when you call a function, you calling a function is just calling the name of the function, which is greet user this, and which could be print age, which is this. But this time around, you are passing the actual value as argument for that parameter. So for the greet user, the actual value is going to be this host of string of Ebuka. While for print age, the actual value is not going to be a string. It is going to be a number which can be 25. Same here with here. We are passing in the value. Do you get it now?
yes, yes,
Hmm?
yes,
Or let's take another example. Maybe I have a function that takes a Boolean parameter. So I can have something like this. Mm, print bool. Maybe it's taking Boolean of Ismail. Right, Boolean of Ismail. Then have the same line of code. It's male, true or false is male. So this parameter is just like you declaring a variable, right? Like this is male equal to true, right? Then when
yes,
calling the function, right? When calling the function, you are now going to pass in the actual value, which could be true or false. If you don't pass anything, it's going to flag an error stating that the function you are trying to call is accepting what? One parameter. So when calling that function, you need to pass in a value that corresponds to that one parameter. Are we good?
yes,
Right?
yes, yes.
All right, great. So that's it with um parameter. In case I ask you what's the difference between parameter and argument, you know how to explain. Parameters are used when defining functions, while argument is the value that is used when calling the function. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to an initial example of greet user, string user, console write line, good morning user. So now I have defined the function. Now I want to um call this function and pass in the argument to this function. So the argument can be any name so far as it's within a string. So if I want this function to print good morning, then the name of the user. Let's say I want it to print good morning, um, Chinedu. I want it to print good morning, Chinedu. Once I run this code, I want to see good morning, Chinedu. But you notice that after I run this, something happens. After I run this, something happens. I'm saying good morning, user, instead of good morning, Chinedu. So Samuel, how do I solve this? What do I do? What's missing here? There's something I forgot here. So how do we fix that? I want it to use the actual variable instead of this string. How do I handle that?
So you are going to have to replace. You've already declared up that the user is Chinedu
Mm,
or Ebuka up. So now you are going
hmm.
to bring it down into this great user as the name.
Okay. So tell me what to do.
You replace the user with the name
So what will be the name?
Chinedu or Ebuka that is up.
I like this. Like this, right?
Yes.
So good morning, Ebuka. Now the goal is whatever name I use here as argument, it should correspond to the name here,
Yes.
right? So if I
Yes.
run this thing, is it going to print good morning, Chinedu?
And it's going to print Ebuka.
But I want it to print Chinedu. What do I do?
So that means the string user that is up where Ebuka is should be changed back
Okay,
to
no,
Chinedu.
no worry. Let me remove this, so that we don't get confused. I have this variable name string user. Or you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this so that you really get what I
Okay,
mean.
okay. Okay.
Let's do this. Or you want to give it. Okay, don't worry. Let's do this. Once you understand, once you get this, then if you struggle with what I want to do now, what I want to ask you now, then it means you have not fully understood a concept. So, um, let me comment that out. So I have a variable string, um, name equal to Richard. String name equal to Richard, right? I want to print this console dot write line. I want to print this hello Richard. I want to print hello Richard to the console. How am I going to write that? I want to print hello Richard because if I do this now, hello name, the real sense is that I want to print the actual value of this name, which is Richard. But this hello name, is it going to give me hello Richard or hello name? Hmm?
So okay, that's going to be this
Eh?
hello name. When you print this, it's going to bring hello name, not hello Richard.
But I want it to print hello Richard. So what do I do?
So you are going to call this string name inside this. So it's going to be hello string name. So printing that is going to bring hello Richard.
You say what? Come again.
You are going to call this string name inside this bracket of hello name.
So what you are saying, I should just replace it here.
No, 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 no. Like
Okay.
replace it with string name
I should replace this with what?
with the string like you
Just tell me
call this
how to write it. Okay. Hello. What's the next thing I need to write?
string
String
name.
name, right?
Yes.
All right. We need a special class, me and you. I've caught somebody. I've caught you red-handed. So it's not printing hello Richard. It's not printing hello string name. I've catch you. After this class, we'll have a special class. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. All right. So who can help him?
Good evening. We either use string interpolation or
String
concatenation.
interpolation, exactly. String interpolation because I want to call in a variable name within my string. I make use of string interpolation to call in the variable name, which is going to be hello, then name. As simple as that. When you want to call a variable name within a string, you use string interpolation for that. So whatever name I change it to, it's going to be dynamic enough to read the value for that variable. Somewhere you didn't really understand string interpolation, right?
Did, but I've not, I did, but I've not been able to revise it recently, sir.
Okay, now I think that's why now. So try and revise it. Just go back and just revise that. Then if you are still struggling with it, you reach out to me. Then we just hold another class for you. Hmm?
Okay, sir.
All right, great. So that's it with that. So for our functions now, for our function, sorry, I've spent time on this. So for our function now, I want to print good morning, then whatever value that is being passed as argument into this function, let it be dynamic enough to read that value. So what will be the final, what will be the correction here? Samuel, tell me, what will be the correction here?
So it's going to be string interpolation there.
Mm-hmm.
Then change it to user. So this good morning, Ebuka will be good morning user.
Which is this, Abby?
Yes.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. Okay. So if I run this now, I'm going to see good morning, Chinedu, right? So even if I change it to Daniel, I don't need to come here and write good morning, Daniel. This is actually taking care of it. So how it works is when you run the code, what happens is that this is executed first. Okay, yeah, I was supposed to teach you guys debugging, step in, step out, and all. Okay, let me show you guys debugging, how debugging works. So what happens behind the scene when you run your code? Where does it start from, right? Where does it start from? That's what we want to find out. Where is it actually starting from? Is it starting from here? Is it starting from here, line 7? Is it starting from here? Why is it not starting from 4? Why is it starting from 24? Why is it starting from 29? So when debugging, right? When debugging, comments are not compiled. When running your code, comments are not compiled or run because comments are more like just like helping you know what your code is doing. So it's just a note for you to remember. Maybe when you come into that code, you know what we're trying to solve. So comments are not compiled. Take note of that. All these I've been doing from the beginning of our class. All these, they are comments. Every programming language has their syntax of writing comments. So for C sharp, when you want to write a comment, you use double slash, then you write the statement just to help more like documentation purpose or to tell you what you actually doing. Okay. So the main business is actually from here down here. Don't bother yourself about this. It's just a note. Okay. So I want to, okay, Bakari, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is on the comment. Can you please go to
Yeah.
hold up, baby? So For example, I'm writing a comment that
Mm-hmm.
extends to the next line. Do I have to also still put the slash at the front? Like I wrote something that is actually very long and it extends to
Okay, if you
the
want,
next line.
there's what we call, okay, yeah, yeah, I get it. There's what we call single line comment. There's what we call multi. So if there is a comment that will extend to the next line, then this is how you need to write it. Slash star star. Um, s- I think this, right? Yeah. So this is how you write it. Yeah. Slash star.
Okay.
Then you close it with star slash. So you can just be doing whatever you want to do. Just, yeah. So
Okay.
something like this.
Thank you.
Eh, or if you want to, okay. Yeah, something like that. Hmm?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Great. So greet user, I'll put a breakpoint here and I put a breakpoint here. So I've put two breakpoints, one in the body and the other one when calling the user. So the goal is once I run my code, once I debug, any breakpoint that to hit first is actually where the line of code starts, right? So if you check this top now, we have this play button. So this play button, now you hover on it, you say start without debugging, meaning you don't want to debug, you just want to run it at once. Why this now? When you click this, it means you want to debug. And for you to debug, you must have placed your breakpoint at different sections of your code. So your breakpoint, meaning of breakpoint is just like a movie. You're watching a movie and you just want to see different, you are seeing how the movie is being played, like the flow, right? Great. So I'm going to debug this now. I'll debug my code. You notice this now. This yellow line here did not start here. It started from where it was being called. It started from this point where it was being called, right? It started from where it's being called. Now, when you run your program, it starts from the place you are calling that function. So it's more like saying, fine, there is a function name called greet user. I am now going to play this. I think this should be show next statement. What would be the next step? If I click this next step, what happens? It takes me to my stuff is not working. Yeah. Okay. If I click the next step, it takes me to the body of the function. It takes me to the body of the function where I am going to use the actual value to pass it here, which is what, if you hover on this, you will see Daniel. Can we see this? Hello, can we see this? Can someone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, you can see this. What can you see here? You are seeing a description of what that variable is holding or what that parameter is holding. So what can you see? What's the value of that parameter you are seeing there?
Daniel.
Breathe down there.
Daniel. Daniel, right? So what happens is that
Yeah.
whenever the code runs, it executes this first, then it goes into the function using the real value for that variable, which is what you are saying, Daniel. Yeah. Then it then goes to the next line, which is this one, to execute good morning. It's not going to say good morning user. It's going to use the actual value for that user, and it then ends the flow. You might not understand this how debugging works now, it comes with practice, right? The reason I showed you debugging is just maybe to understand what is actually happening, where it starts from the step-by-step procedure of how it's generating its output or its result. Okay, maybe after now you can always practicalize that, but we'll make use of debugging when we enter OOP classes and all. It's just to help you detect and to figure out why your code is printing a wrong result, right? A wrong output. I know. Okay, so that's it with, I've spent so much time on functions. That's it with functions. Now we're going to talk about um yeah, functions that return that uses two parameters or three parameters or four parameters. So I want to create a function that adds two numbers, right? I want to create a function that will add two numbers and print the number, the result. Okay, that's what I want to do now. The reason I'm taking my time on function is because it is very, 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 very important. Like it's very, very important. So everybody must really understand this. All right. So write a function that adds two numbers and prints the result in your console, in console, and prints the result in console. Okay. It adds two numbers and prints the result in um console. Great. So looking at this now, write a function that adds two numbers and prints the result in console, meaning you start asking yourself, what are those two numbers? You can say, let those two numbers be what? Maybe num1 and num2. Let those two numbers be num1 and 2. The next thing is to ask yourself is that, oh, is this function returning anything? Because now you know there are different sections of the function. We have a function that is returning something, the one that is void. So based on the problem you are trying to solve, the problem is saying it adds the two numbers and prints the result in the console. Anything that has to do with printing, just know that that function is actually not returning anything. It is void because its job is to implement, do the logic, and print the result still in that function. Okay. So I'm asking myself, is this function returning um, a value? No, it is not returning a value, meaning I'm going to use my void. Second is the name of the function. What is the name of this function? It could be um, add. Yeah, it could be add. I can leave it as add numbers, right? Add numbers. Open bracket. Now, about the parameters. How many parameters will this function need? Is it one? Is it two? Is it three? Is it four? Is it five? So, Samuel, how many parameters are we going to need for this our function?
Two parameters.
Two parameters, right? Which is
Yes.
num1 and
And num
num2. Great. What will be the data type
integer.
of them? All right.
Yeah.
Int1, then int num2. Great. Then open bracket. So how are we going to do this now? Just tell me what would I do? My job is to add the two numbers. Just tell me what am I going to do?
Okay. So yeah, we're going to use interpolation in between, and at the same time, by using is it there is I plus plus.
I plus plus. No, really, not really. Okay, let's just proceed. Don't worry, yeah. The more you practice, right? The more you practice, you get familiar with it. Okay, so you don't need to feel bad or feel sad, right? It comes with practice, right?
Yes, so
Yeah. All right. Thanks. So it prints the result to the console. My job is to add the two numbers. On a norm, when you can actually do this when you want to print a result. You can actually do this right line, console dot right line. Then, assuming I want to add two numbers, I can do this maybe string interpolation, the addition of two numbers is I can do this. Maybe I have a variable called int value 1 equals to 3, then int value 2 equal to 4, right? And I want to add them directly inside this curly brace. Doing this is valid. Val 1 plus val 2. Any confusion? If you agree, thumbs up. All right, just one person is the rest. Do you agree with this? Bernard, are you there? Are you here with us? Bernard, I want to catch those who are sleeping. Bernard, Bakare.
I'm here.
Okay, Chisom.
Hello,
Okay.
boss. I'm with you, but I'm not on the screen. I'm currently I dey do something, I beg. Sorry.
Okay, no wahala. Onwensa Kelvin, Oshikonya.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, okay. So far as we
But I
are
wanted to
following.
ask a question though. Why are we writing the printout like for the console before the function?
No, this is an example. I'm
Okay, an
trying to cite
example. Okay,
an
okay,
trying to
okay.
cite an example of if you want to add two variables inside
Variables
the
together.
string interpolation, you can actually do this value one, value two, and it still gives you your result. Or I'll show you the second way of
Okay.
doing that, which is longer, but it still gives you the same answer. So adds the number and prints the result. So console dot write line, um, the result, okay, the result um between num1 and num2 is what is going to be what num1 plus num2 is as straightforward as this. Who agrees to this? Thumbs up. All right, great. Like I said, if you are confused, please draw me back. Okay. So we can do this. So let's finish everything before I show you the second way. Then you be the one to decide which is easier for you. So I have created a function. I've defined a function that adds two numbers and prints the result in the console. So this is doing everything at once. But it doesn't end there. I need to call that function and pass in what? The argument, right? So I'm going to pass in 5 as the num1. Samuel, why am I having this error even when I've added the argument to this function? Why am I still having error? Hmm? You have
Okay.
an answer? Yeah, go ahead.
Because this value has not been declared initially.
The value has not been declared
Mm.
initially. Mm-mm. So first, ask yourself, how many parameters is add numbers taking?
Two,
How many arguments do I need when calling add numbers?
two arguments.
Exactly. But the reason why it's flagging an error is that the real function is having two parameters, but when calling it, I'm using one. And this
Okay.
5 is represents num1, but there is no
Number.
argument that is representing num2. That's why it's flagging error. So I need to provide, comma, the second value that will represent what? Num2. Are you following now? Is it clearer now?
Yes.
Great. So I need to provide this. So after providing this now, once I run this, what do you think will be the result? If I run this now, what will be the result? Just tell me
12.
what the console will print.
12. It will print the final answer 12.
So how is it going to print it? The result between, just tell me how the output will be like.
The result between 5 plus 7 is 12.
Okay, the result between 5 plus 7
5 and
is 12.
7.
Okay,
5 and 7 is 12.
okay, all right, great. Hope everyone is following. Thumbs up if you are following. All right, great. So the result between 5 and 7 is 12. So what if I had added extra argument? Why is it flagging an error?
Because um we needed two arguments and this is more than two.
Thank you. Exactly. We needed two arguments. Well, this is more than two. Mosquito. All right. So that's why we're having that error. So number of parameters there must correspond to the number of arguments being used, or else it's going to give you a compile error. So that's it. Okay, Bakari, go ahead.
I'm kind of confused though.
All right.
So you said we used void. Why do we use void? Because you said sorry, why did we use void when we are getting a return of 12, which is the sum of number one and two. I'm not sure. I'm
See
confused.
the problem. Like I said from the beginning, from the
Mm.
problem, you know if that function is returning something or not. The problem is stating write a function that adds two numbers and print. I didn't say and return, no, and print the result in the console. This is actually printing. I'm not returning anything. I'm just printing the result, right?
Okay. Yes.
I'm printing the result. I'm not returning. If you see another program, don't worry, I'll do the third exercise or the third example. So you just see the difference. If I don't use the word print, it means, okay, it means that function is going to return something, which is what I want to showcase now, right? Okay,
Okay.
great. So let's go to our final example for the third one. We'll still use this. So we can have a function that adds two numbers and return the result and returns the result and returns the result. Write a function that adds two numbers and returns the result. Great. Returning the result means it is returning something. Now, it's no longer going to be printing. Its job is not going to be printing. It's now returning a value, which is that result. And because it is returning a value, okay, let me write it this way. Write a function that adds two integer. Yeah, there's a reason why I had to change this. So, because someone will say, what if it was decimal, double? How will it be like? Write a function that adds two integer numbers and return an integer result. Yeah, and return an integer result. Great. Now pay attention. Like I said, it's always very good you understand the problem. Understanding the question is very, very important. By understanding the question, you know how to tackle and you know what you need to solving that problem. So it says write a function that adds two integer values, right? We all agree that fine, we need two parameters, right, of integer data type, num1 and num2, and returns an integer result. Now, this function is not longer void because from the problem, from the question, it's saying it is returning a value, okay, which could be a return type. So now we would go back to step one when you're trying to write a function statement syntax. First, we need the return type. The return type is more like the data type, which could be int, double, bool, float, decimal, etc., etc. So the return type is actually the data type for, let me add string as well, string, the data type for that function. Okay. How do I know if this function return type is an int, if this function return type is a double, is a boolean? I would know that from the question, right? Bakare, can you hear me? Hello, Bakare, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I'm with you.
I would know the kind of return type to use based on the question I'm trying to solve. So the question is saying it's write a function that has two integer values and returns the result as an integer value. Okay, and returns the result. Let me tweak this. Result as an integer value. So from this now, if I ask you now, what return type will I use for this function based on this concluding statement?
Return.
Hmm?
Return.
No, 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 no. What return type? I say return type are data types. Is the data type which is
Okay.
int, double, bool, float, decimal, string. So among these data type, which one best fits this problem? and this concluding statement?
Int.
Int, right? So because
Yeah.
this function is supposed to return int, I'm no longer going to use the void keyword. I'll use the actual data type, which is the return, um, which is the return type of this function, right?
Mm.
Now, C# is flagging an error saying every function that is returning something must have the return keyword inside of that function. If you don't have that return keyword, you have a compile error, which is what you are seeing here, which is what you are seeing here. So I need to return a value. And what am I returning? I am returning what? The addition of what? Num1 and num2, right? Hope we are following. Hello? Oh, great. So I'm returning the addition of num1 and num2. So how do I write that? I write it this way. Like I said, you need the return keyword. What am I returning? I'm returning what? Num1 plus num2. As simple as that. So this is how you return an integer value. This is how you return an integer value. The value you are returning here must correspond to the data type, right, that you were using when defining that function. Just like the name reply, what is the return type of this function? The return type is actually an integer. And because it is an integer, whatever final value I'm returning must be an integer. What if it was a double? It means whatever value I'm returning must be a double, right? What if the return type of the function was a string? It means the final value I am returning must be a string, but I'm having an error because the function needs to return a string, that what I'm returning what is what? A number, which doesn't make sense. So to solve that, a string is always enclosed in double quotes, right? So this is just as an example, just like it's an example. It's not as if I'm just citing an example. Like whatever return type you use in your function must correspond to the return value. They have to be the same. Okay. If you are using a Boolean, if this function is the return type of this function is a Boolean, it means whatever you returning here should either be true or false. True or false. You can't use a number. If you return a number, it's going to flag an error, which is what you are seeing here. Hope we are following. Thumbs up if you understand. Okay. Bakare, do you understand?
Yes, but for example, look
Okay.
at now. It's for we are using want to return boolean, right? But inside this add numbers, we are using int
Don't
and
worry. I
return.
was just saying that's an example. Let me go back. I will going
Oh,
to use another example that is returns Boolean with a proper
oh,
question. Yeah, I was just citing an example. Mm,
oh,
yeah. So this from the question, from the problem we are trying to solve, should return a result that is an integer. And what is the result? The addition of what? Num1, right? Plus num2. You agree to this now, right?
yeah,
Great. Now, the final part, just pay attention. Every function that returns something, there should be a variable that needs to hold that something. Just like me, the illustration I gave, I sent my sister to go get something. She needs to return with that stuff. She needs to return to me with that same stuff. So every function that returns a value, there should be a variable to hold that value. What do I mean? This is what I mean. The normal way of creating a variable could be is int result equal to add numbers. This is what I mean. 4, comma 8. Right? This is what I mean. Any function that returns a value, this is the function, right? That's definitely going to return a value, which is what? 12. It needs a variable to hold that value, and which is what I have created here. I have created a variable that would call that function, and whatever value is going to return is going to be stored in that result. Are we following? Thumbs up if you understand this. Okay, Chisom. Okay, Chisom doing something. Samuel, do you understand what I just said? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So that's it. Any function that is returning a value, there should be a variable to hold that value. Second rule is that the variable that is holding that value must have the same data type that was used as a return type for that function. So if you notice now, int is of the same data type with the return type for that function. So had it been I created a variable using double, if I had created a variable using double, it still works because double can still handle integer values. But if I had used string, it's going to flag an error saying you can't actually use string. You can actually use string with integer. That's why it's flagging an error. That's why I'm saying the data type you use must correspond with the return type that was used for that function, right? Which is integer. Hope we are following. Thumbs up. Now I'm spending so much time here because it's very important. Like I said, it's very, very important. If you struggle with functions, it's really going to affect
Can you do an
the rest.
example for another?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to do an example for another flow.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to do an example for that. So int result equals to add number. So if I should console dot write line the result, I will get the result is going to be this. So the result should be 12 because what is happening is that this is going to call this function. It would calculate num1 plus num2, which is 4 plus 8, 12. It comes back with 12. It stores that 12 into this result variable. And if I'm printing it out, my result is going to be the actual value that was gotten as return value from that function uh, name. So if I run this, I would get the result is 12, which is what I have. Yeah, yeah. The result is 12. Okay. So try another example. Let's use okay, let's do it this way. Write a function, um, write a function that gets the first name and last name of a user and then returns the full name. It returns the full name. It returns the full name. We all understand this problem, this question, this problem, right? Hello? Do we all understand this question now? Are we there? Okay, we do. Great. Now, first thing, like I said, ask yourself how many parameters would you need for this function? Obviously, I would need two, first name and last name, right? First name, last name. Secondly, what is the return type of this function? Looking at this question, what do you think would be the return type? It's returning a full name. So what do you think would be the return type? Bakare.
String.
Hmm?
String.
String, right? Great.
Yeah.
Which is the string. So let's see that now. So I have a function. So what I'm going to do is remove this. So string is my return type. The name of the function is more like making
Full name.
okay, full name. There's one thing when naming a function, right? When naming a function, you just reminded me of something which is very bad. Yeah, when naming a function, your function name shouldn't be like the normal variable name. It should be a verb, more like do this, get this, print out this. Do you get? It should not be like a variable naming, like full name, last name. It is a verb, action word. Do you understand?
Yes.
So what would be the right method name? I mean function name. Sorry, function name. Mm. What's going to be the right function name? Get
Thinking.
full name, right?
Yeah.
Great. So what is it taking? It's taking the string first name, then string last name, then your bracket. So now the body now, I want it to return what? The full name. So it's going to return what? We're still going to make use of string if the knowledge of string concatenation. That's why I said every concept you are learning is very important because you will still need it later on. Yeah, you still need it later on. So we can make use of string concatenation. So how am I going to do that now? What will be the final value now? I want to return the concatenation of first name and last name, which is like my full name. So how will it be now? Bakare, what will it be?
It would be string. Wait, sorry. Mm.
Ayana, because of time, it's going to be this, right? It's going to
Mm.
be this first name, then plus this is handling your space, right? Then concatenation plus last name, right?
Yeah.
Are we good? Yeah, which
Yes,
is
yes.
a string. Like I said, the function is returning a value, and because it's returning a value, I need a variable that will hold that value after calling that function. So what will be my variable? Is it what data type will my variable have?
It will still have the string.
So it's going to be what? String, which could be full name, right? Equal to get full name. Then you pass in the
Name.
argument, which could be maybe Judith, which is the first name. Then last name could be Ebuka, right? So therefore, if I'm console
Mm.
right line full name by console right line full name, I should see Judith space Ebuka, right? Which is this Judith space Ebuka. Do you understand now with the string?
Yes, yes, yeah, I do. Mm.
Yeah. It's same, it still works for Boolean. If you have a problem that makes use of the Boolean, yeah, you can still um do that and still gives you your Boolean results. So just practicalize, just do that. Teacher will not teach everything, like it's no time. So you can just try that out with the Boolean and all. Let's see if I still need to cover something. So I've done parameters, functions that avoid function, return function, parameterless functions, function with parameters, and all. You can read up. There's a particular function, but that one, when we go into OOP, we'll talk about that one, which is optional functions, right? Optional parameters, the one that are optional. Okay. When we go into that OOP, we'll talk about that. Okay. But you can still read that up. Optional parameters is also very important. Okay. All right. It's almost 11 o'clock and I've spent so much time here. Let's go back to the slide. All right. So parameters and return types. Yeah, we have talked about parameters and return type. So these are the examples of how it is been written. Then method, function overloading and variable scoping. Function overloading and variable scoping. So the remainder of this will be done in our next class, right? The remainder of this will be done in our next class. I just want you guys to just go and rest. It's already late. I don't like teaching at night because we are humans. We are very tired. So in our next class, we'll look at covering the remainder of today's class. All right. Any question?
Boss, can we get the program.cs file?
Yeah. I will give it to you. I will give it to you. They also give you the topics we were supposed to cover for you to just to go and research so that when next week I come, I won't really spend much time on
No problem,
it.
sir. Hmm.
Yeah, I'll also give you the topics to go and check
Okay.
that. Mm. There, if you
Thank
have
you.
checked the topic, if you
So,
are confused, you can just drop a question in the channel and I'll address to it. Yeah.
can you help us with some questions on the functions just to test our knowledge?
Okay. Okay. It's already late. All
This
right.
is not tax. This is not
Eh?
tax. This is not part of our.
Yeah. I get. All right. So let's do this. All right, it's fine. Okay, let's do this. Mm, what question is coming to my head? Um, write a function that um prints the write the function that prints write the function that prints hello world. Okay, write a function that prints hello world. Okay, Samuel, answer this one. Okay, it's very straightforward. Let's see, how will you tackle this? Tell me what to write. Write a function that prints hello world. This shouldn't be hard.
So the variable type is going to be a string.
The
Is
variable
it, yeah.
type is going to be a string.
It should be a void.
I'm
It should be
asking
a
one person.
void.
Oh, eh, just look at this flow first. Ask yourself, okay, Samuel, you have to go through the, okay, let's just see now. Okay. Ask yourself, write a function that prints hello world. I want to ask you, this function now, is it returning something or is going to be a void?
Is going to be a void
Why is it a void?
because is not asking it to return.
Okay.
It's not a return type. Like
So,
it's
all
not
right,
the question is not saying it should return.
exactly. So this is scrapped out. Return type. There is no return type. The return type in this case is what? A void,
String
right?
void, yes.
Great. So go to step two.
So void string.
Ah, you are still not understanding
Should be the
the
name. Should be the name.
the method name.
The method name.
That's step two. Just follow this step, right? That's why I wrote down this step. Because I know then when I came across functions, it was confusing. So what helped me was I wrote the step out, which helped me to know is it a return type, the method name, does it have parameters, the body, the code, then return or void, thereabout. Okay. So for the return type, we have concluded that it is a void. The next thing is the method name. What will be the method name? Hmm? What will be the
Hello world.
method name? Sorry?
Hello world.
Now you are getting it all mixed up. You forgot when I said when giving, when deriving your function name, it should not be like your normal
Oh.
variable. It is a verb. Use action words like print this, print hello, get this. Do you get?
Yes.
So
And
what will
use
be the
print
right
message.
print message? Okay. Print message. It's fine. Okay. Print message. Because from the problem now, it's saying write a function that prints hello world. Okay, print message. Oh, yeah, fine. Would this have any parameter?
Yes, a user. I say user. String.
String
Show
what?
how. Mm,
Hmm?
I'm trying to think of what we call it.
That is it.
So
When
it
you
won't have
spend
any
much time,
parameter.
when you spend much time thinking of a parameter, it's telling you that in actual sense, this is actually a parameterless function. This doesn't need any parameter. When you spend much time thinking, you notice
Mm,
that the other problems we're solving where you can easily know from the question, you know that, okay, this one needs two parameter. Okay, this one needs one parameter. This is just saying print hello world. I don't need any parameter now. I just want it to do this. Console dot write line. Print what?
hello world.
As simple as that. That's what I want. Finish. Print message. And we are good. That's what I want it to do. So I don't need any parameter, and I don't need
Parameter.
parameter for that. Do you understand?
Yep.
Great. All right. So next, let's do this. This one is for Bakare.
She was the one
Right.
that said you should bring example. She have run. No.
Has she left the call?
She's not talking now.
Wrong, Kwa. Then you not ask me question now.
They said, he said anybody can answer now. You were the one that's looking for.
Anybody can answer. The question was directed to Samuel. That was why I
Okay,
didn't say anything.
Ayana, let's do this. Okay, this is for you. This is for you. Write a function that um gets the student details, that gets the student details, which is what the name and age, and then um and then print their details to the console, and then print their details to the console. Okay, so start.
Okay. So first off is void.
Okay,
So we'll name it get student details.
okay. Nah, okay, let me okay. Anyways, it comes with practice. So there are two different things, right? When you want to, when you saying get student details, it's more like saying, okay, fine, this function is going to return something, and I need to get that student details to store somewhere. But from this problem, it's saying get it
Print,
and print it. So the right function name could be what?
print,
Print what?
student details.
Exactly. Yeah, great. So any parameter.
Um, yeah, the name and the age.
So string name, right?
Yes, and
Age, age.
age.
Okay.
So this will now be console dot write line.
Okay. All right.
Um, uh, um,
Just anything that comes to your head is just normal print. The goal is to print the student details to the console. So,
yeah. So okay, let's say string name.
I want to print the console. I print to the console, so I should
Okay,
use string
so
name.
okay, so let's do okay. We can say student name is I don't know.
So student name, mm, student name. I'm seeing error, so
I was supposed to either concatenate or to start with.
now. He did not even tell me to use string interpolation now.
Oh,
Confirmation,
okay. True. So yeah, okay. String interpolation. Student name is
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Student name is name.
Name, ba?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus
Oh, I think you and Samuel will need special class for this string interpolation. We need a special. You guys need special class for this.
and you okay. The name now it should be in curly braces.
Now. Why are you saying name? Tell me in full now.
Plus okay, space plus
Why are you using plus inside string
And
uh,
age inside curly bracket. I mean,
and age?
And
is,
and age is okay.
Name,
is it not?
name plus age.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to call it.
Mm, so it will now be print student details.
Mm-hmm.
Um, name. Sorry, name should be. We can use Samuel.
Okay, like somewhere, right? Yeah.
Str- Um, string now. Double
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
comma 25.
Samuel is 25 years. I didn't
I
know.
don't say I don't know him. I don't know his age.
Okay. All right. So that's right. So if I print this now, I should see um the student name is Samuel and the age is 25. Right?
Mm,
Don't worry. Your tax will cover plenty of this plus Boolean plus possible flow just for you to practice. Don't worry. You'll see a lot of it next week or per week. Yeah. Don't worry.
okay.
All right. So I think we have come to the end of our class. Let me stop the recording before I ask how our tax is going.